How you doing? Mark Dayrell with blackbelthumans.com. If you have a memory like a goldfish, then despair for the next 3 seconds no more. Because whether you're a student trying to absorb some information to pass a test, or perhaps you've been asked to do something like give a speech, over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down as simply as possible an old technique which has its roots in ancient Greece and was used in English schools right up until the 1600s, when some religious nuggets had it removed from education because of its imagination encouraging properties. But what if they imagined Jesus in the nude? Yeah, take it out. Now I found if left to its own devices, there's no telling what random nonsense my subconscious will absorb. But I've used this easy to learn system many times to help me with total recall of important stuff like content from courses, martial arts techniques, speeches, anatomy, phone numbers, shopping lists, the periodic table, how to solve a Rubik's Cube, and some really important stuff like the random order of a deck of cards. Whatever you need a Rain Man style memory for, this is the video for you. Once I've given you the basic layout of this life transforming technique, I'll run you through how I have stored some complex information to provide you with a little inspiration. So in the words of the character Dutch in the film Predator, stick around! This system is low-key, and it works like this. You start with the places you know the layout of. For example, your home, the houses that your relatives live in, a school or place of work, in fact any route that you could close your eyes and imagine yourself walking around it in your mind. And then you simply place images of the information that you wish to remember at various points along the way. Because there is generally an order in which information has to be recalled, and so that we never get mixed up mentally walking around a route in our minds, wherever possible, it's advisable to work clockwise around each route that you use in your mind. And then the same again for each subsequent room that we come across. When we've used the ground floor of a property, we can then make our way up the stairs and repeat the process as before. Once inside a room, for example a kitchen, although we need to avoid clumping things, because they can mash together and become unclear on recall, assuming that we know the layout of the rooms pretty well, then it's no problem to store an image of a piece of information inside of a drawer, which is part of a stack of 3 or 4 drawers, because they'll naturally be partitioned inside your mind and so won't become entangled. With a room like a kitchen, there are many places high and low, like wall and base units, to store stuff. So I would suggest to you to go with the order you're most inclined to use, as it's more likely that you'll follow this order on revisiting the route anyway. But if you're stuck for ideas, you could go clockwise around the wall units and then go clockwise around the base units too. Not forgetting to use places like worktops, rings on a hob, the grill, the oven, the dishwasher, the sink, and the fridge and freezer too. With the images, the brighter and clearer the better. So make sure you can clearly see the image at each new location before moving on to the next storage point, which are called locus. When I first found out about this technique, thanks to Derren Brown's book, Trick of the Mind, and inspired by the obvious and near limitless potential of it, I instantly wanted to jump straight in at the deep end. And so obviously wanted to pick something random and intangible. So I settled on the periodic table. I know what you're thinking. Mark Dayrell sure knows how to party. And that's right. So let me show you how I converted some of the weird and wonderful names of the elements in the periodic table into meaningful images that could be recalled at will. So whenever you want to memorise a huge amount of random and intangible information, you're going to need a lot of space. So I decided to pick a place in Cornwall called Tintagel, which is where the ruins of King Arthur's castle are. So I picked a point just inside the castle for my first locus, and I placed an image for hydrogen there. I soon realised that I wasn't going to be able to rustle up a memorable image, directly for each element. So I decided to chop the words up into separate images, which when strung together would prompt me into remembering the more complex words. So with hydrogen, hydro combines with lots of words and means water. And I've got an old friend called Jen. So the image I created was like a fountain of water with my old friend Jen rolling around uncontrollably on the top of it. Just to inform you at this point, I've also created an image for each element's atomic number, and these images are also stored along the route. The system I use for numbers is called the PEG system, and it merges perfectly with Loki. But because it's a detailed system in and of itself, what I'll do is I'll create another video which will explain how to create images for numbers and how to link them in with this system. So next up on my route from Tintagel Castle is helium. And this was a simple one because I've got another friend called Liam and I've got him dressed up as He-Man on the route. So it simply converts helium. So for a final example, I'll use the next element in the periodic table, which is lithium. And the reason that I'll stick with that, rather than pick from over 100 others, is because it's the first one I had to abstract a little bit to associate for the word. This is also a good one because it displays another technique that I used to help with commonly occurring words or commonly occurring endings of words. So for the Li part of lithium, it's an abstract association and the spelling is not even the same, but I used Jet Li for the first part of the word lithium. So he counted for the Li, he's wearing a white t-shirt with TH on it. So that's lith. And then for ium, I realised looking at other elements on the table that many of them finish with ium. Now this is an idea that I developed myself and it could work for any common words that you need to remember that finish with the same ending. For example, ing, shun, tion, ium in the case of these elements. So you can come up with a symbol which when you see it on the route in your mind, you know is that ending to a word. So for IUM, which is what lots of the elements finish with, to me it sounds like when you're really stumped on something. Someone asks you a question and you go and to symbolise that ending to an element, I use another friend of mine from my past that used to say that all the time. So anywhere I see him along my route, I know that that's what that stands for. With the examples that I've given, it might be, as I've been talking, that you've created other images in your mind that you would have used in place of what I was suggesting that I used. And that's great, because I'm not going to be there when you're trying to convert information that you wish to memorise into images that you can store along routes in your mind. So if you're already thinking of your own images, that's a really good sign. Don't worry if you're not though, because assuming you've never heard of this technique before, what I'd suggest is that you go and you start with something like a list, a short list of say 10 items, and you'll soon realise that literally with inanimate objects that convert straight to images, there is no limit to the amount of things that you could memorise in a very short period of time. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. That's the basics of the Loki system. I will produce other videos in this series that complement this basic idea. So thanks for watching guys. I'm Mark Dayrell with blackbelthumans.com. If you like the content from this video, or if you just want to show a little bit of support, feel free to like, share and comment down below on the video, and also click the little notification bell. Thanks for watching guys. I'll see you next time.